So, favourite people. Thank you to Gareth of Books, Songs and Other Magic for giving us this tag. Not all tags are created equal, and this is one of the most intriguing. So let's start off with the caveat that I'm going to answer not just one, my favourite throughout, and Gareth himself did that in his own answers, so that's my justification. And let's start with the first one. What is your favourite author? Favourite author? Lifetime would be P.G. Wodehouse. I have collected his books, so I have more of his works. I've read more of his works. I've read more of them through my lifetime. I've been a fan since I was about 11 years old. And there's quite a lot of people that are across so many walks of life who will say that they do like reading his work. So I'm in pretty good company there. He's amusing. There's sometimes more to it than that. I'm currently reading Something Fresh, and it has a lot of sort of social commentary and a depiction of what it's like to live in a in a very grotty little rental as a young guy trying to make your way, which is what P.G. Wodehouse did himself. And then the book also talks about behind the scenes with the staff on a large estate, and also the more wealthy lords and ladies that he's more known for writing about. Okay, question number 2. Favourite comedy actor or comedian? Now, for this I could literally be here all day until the storage in my camera is completely full up and you're bored out of your skull and have long left and moved on to other things. But here's quite a good answer for covering lots of people at once. There's a series on, I think it's Netflix, by Jerry Seinfeld called Comedians Getting Coffee, in which he goes for coffee with various comedians and they have a chat. They basically try and make each other laugh. They talk about the whole business of comedy, what it's like, and it's madly engaging, and it has a cast of so many people who are just the quality people you would expect. Comedians who've been around for a long time and can sit over a cup of coffee with Jerry Seinfeld and hold their own. And that's saying something. It's very, very enjoyable. Speaking of coffee, time to wet my whistle. I've always loved Eddie Izzard, the absurd kind of humour. I know that the preference now is to be referred to as she, and I think it's Susie is the name, but the comedy's still fantastic. Keaton from movies, of course, fabulous. Jacques Tati, especially the Monsieur Hulot character. I think I've got a DVD to show. Les Vacances de Monsieur Hulot. Gentle comedy, but fun. I also love Mike Myers in So I Married an Axe Murderer, and I have this here. And it's before he started doing the really big gross out kind of ones. This would be more like something you could just enjoy. It's a family favourite. And Black Books. Sometimes you hear about the stars align, and I think in terms of acting, writing, comedy, stars, all together in the one, you've got them all together in Black Books, which is by Dylan Moran and also has Tamsin Greig and Bill Bailey. And they are fun, they're acerbic. Every now and then I have a longing for them, a bit like really strong salt and vinegar crisp. You just go, oh, I want something that's not niceyed up, but is just hilarious, funny and witty. Also, it's set in a bookshop. So for all of us who love reading, it's kind of in our ballpark. Diane Keaton, Sleeper, but also, of course, Nanny Hall. And most of all, Lucy. I love Lucy. Complete series was a Christmas gift or something my daughter treated herself to, and in fact treated us all to. Her humour, her timing, her comedy, the fact that she set up a studio, Desilu, with her husband, that went on to make Star Trek and other famous films, and TV series. Just phenomenal. The comedy lasts because it's so physical. It's still funny years later, even when the social situation she's in and the whole housewife thing is a bit dated, but she is so wonderful. The stars also align for Scott Pilgrim versus Universe, worth catching. And Some Like It Hot, Billy Wilder, my favourite writer and director. The stars also align for Young Frankenstein, written by another Wilder, Gene Wilder, and of course directed by Mel Brooks. And the wonderful Claudette Colbert, It Happened One Night. Screwball comedy where there's a lot of really strong women actors who are being funny as well at the same time. So now to more serious matters, we come to 4 or 3 favourite dramatic actor or actress. Well, I recently started to get interested in Cate Blanchett when I saw her in Tar. This is coming late to the party. She's been winning awards, been fame, but I just was struck by her acting in that. And a recent film I saw on TV which blew me away was The Wife with Glenn Close, in which she plays this almost silent, unseen character for so much of the film. But it's very powerful. I thought that was superb. For question 4, political figure, there was a good version mentioned by Alex Unabridged. She said Betty Boothroyd, the former Speaker of the House of Commons. She is a really good person to name, and it would be great if she was still around and in her prime. She could be very, very useful. I'd like to mention William Wilberforce for campaigning against the slave trade for so very, very, very long, and in the teeth of many entrenched interests, and just for simply keeping going on that for such a long, long time. 5. Film writer or director. Favourite one. I love Agnes Varda, French. She's described as the grandmother of the new wave, and which I think is vaguely pretty much insulting. She's not much older than the male directors who became well known. She's just that bit ahead of them. She's actually an innovator. She's a pioneer. Let's have less of the grandmother thing. And she is showing. I was blown away by seeing her film Cleo 5 to 7, which is a woman between the hours of 5 and 7, and she has taken a test for breast cancer, and she is then walking the streets thinking about her mortality, and at the same time she's very young, she's very glamorous, she's a famous singer, and you see the camera following her around, and it's got such an air of reality that is so unusual for the times, and you can see people in the street kind of going and not believing that they're being filmed, because why would they be filmed? They're ordinary people in the street, and it's just stunning, fabulous. So Agnes Varda as the film director and film writer. Billy Wilder, Some Like It Hot is fantastic. The Apartment and The Fortune Cookie. The writer Nora Ephron, Sleepless in Seattle, and You Got Mail, which is one of my all-time favourite films. And also I want to talk about a particular cinematographer who is Greg Toland. And he's probably best known for working with Orson Welles on Citizen Kane. But I accidentally came across, those serendipitous moments when you're watching TV, you're just kind of scrolling through. In this particular case, I was watching a film called Ball of Fire, 1941. Just a comedy, Gary Cooper, Barbara Stanwyck. And I was blown away by the sudden depth of seeing the screen, seeing the scene and the camera moving, and how much you could see that was in focus. And it reminded me of Citizen Kane. So I looked at the credits, and lo and behold, cinematography done by Greg Toland. So that, I think, predates the Citizen Kane, and it's in this little light-hearted comedy, and it's stunning visually. So if you haven't already seen it, try and watch Ball of Fire and enjoy the comedy of it. A film to recommend, a favourite new discovery. Okay, this again was a late night discovery, BBC. It's made by BBC Arts and 72 Films production, and it's called Shakespeare: Rise of a Genius. Now the title is a bit problematic to me because There's the whole idea in that of the genius, the soul genius, the rise of the genius. And I think it should really be called Shakespeare, His Life and Times, because it's looking at what he wrote through the course of his life, and possibly why he wrote it, what was happening in the society, the politics, the epidemiology as well, because there was different occurrences of the plague, and it's that whole picture behind it all. And the way they start and introduce it is they say, now with the help of historians, experts and actors. And the actors are just kind of thrown at the end of that sentence. And actually, I think the actors are the experts, because you're talking about people like Judi Dench and other people who've won awards for a lifetime of saying these words and expressing them and being on the stage. And they've thought about it, and they've thought about the characters, they've thought about the plays, they've thought about Shakespeare. It's fascinating. So it's a 3-part series, and each part is about 1 hour. And they basically recreate the scenery and the times and the people and the dress and so forth. It's got very high production values, and it's fantastic. And right in the middle of it all, episode 2, 21 minutes in, we see Shakespeare carrying the coffin of his son. He has some daughters as well, but the son at the time was key to carrying on the name, and he carries it. And you have this close-up of his face and the coffin on his shoulder. And he carries it then, and just the way his face subtly changes is my latest discovery as an actor. I just found it phenomenal. The actor is Daniel Boyarsky. The narration throughout is done by Juliet Stephen, who of course has a phenomenal voice and a whole history of being in the Royal Shakespeare Company. She brings all of that to it. So the carrying of the coffin is shown at 22 minutes 36 in, and then towards the end, and there's like very subtle changes of face and eye and movement towards the wooden box and away from. It's just stunning. That is my favourite new discovery. The series is excellent, but the thing I find about it is that it tends to say he would have, surely he must have felt, and you realise it really is trying its best with very few facts to think its way into the man and his times and what he wrote and why. But it's not written proof. They are doing their best, so that has to be borne in mind. But it's a great way to look at all the different plays and why and when they were written, and they are very different, maybe why. 7. Favourite musician or singer? I want to talk about a film again. I want to talk about The Man with the Golden Arm. And it's notable from its opening credits by Slash, which were using cutouts and animated. Very graphic. But the other thing was the music, for me. The music is Elmer Bernstein, not Leonard Bernstein, that there's been a film made about recently. Elmer Bernstein, and his background score just gives you the whole atmosphere of what's happening. The lead role is played, believe it or not, by a singer, Frank Sinatra, but he acts really, really well and convincingly as someone who is, in a sense, down in his luck but trying to make it. And the art direction is phenomenal as well. It was put in for an award, and the direction is by Otto Preminger, and it was made in 1955. The Man with the Golden Arm, and if you haven't seen it, make time. It's an old black and white movie, but listen for the music and how it is setting the scene. I think it's fabulous. And that's really us coming to the end. I have got a couple more questions. Just, it is the biggest inspirational person, which is just too big. It's too big a question. So I want to recommend a smaller group of people who inspire, a whole book full of creatives and the way that they made their work. And I'm always on about the book because I think it's fantastic and very encouraging. And I will mention it here, Daily Habits by Mason Curry. Finally, to tag others, but if you want to do this, by all means go ahead. Have fun with it.